Kai is the one who designed this, which brings us to number 7. In the background of one shot featuring Kofu and Larry, there's what appears to be a shield and fossil. It's a neat Easter egg, though not entirely new fossils like these also appear in Scarlet and Violet, specifically in Clavel's office. One of them resembles an ancient Cyclizar fossil, which hints that Koraidon and Miraidon might not be what they seem. At number 8, we're definitely getting Raging Bolt and Iron Crown, but it's likely that we'll also see future and past forms of Entei and Raikou. Interestingly, the Swords of Justice and Legendary Beasts are connected by height. Virizion matches Suicune, Cobalion matches Raikou, and Entei matches Terrakion, but none are as tall as Raging Bolt now. Number 9 features Ditto taking the form of cubes around Blueberry Academy. This is particularly interesting because while Ditto has taken on the form of inanimate objects before, it's rare. These cubes seem to be made from the same gemstones found in Area 0, containing life energy that Ditto may be interpreting as life. This could be this game's version of the Diglett hunt from the Isle of Armor. Number 10 involves a character named Mr. Snackums, or Snackman. Larry's gym isn't truly his, it's just a restaurant he visits. He's more of a stand-in gym leader and is usually part of the Elite Four. That building features posters of the Teal Mask and Kame celebration, suggesting its actual owner is well-travelled. This person, known as Snacksworth, appears to be deeply knowledgeable about legendary Pokémon lore. Accessing these Pokémon involves special meals, and Larry's gym even has a secret menu that grants extra Terra shards, hinting at a strong connection between these characters. Number 11 is more of a theory than a true Easter egg. The design of Terrapagus, a large, ancient blue tortoise with a wispy tail, might be linked to Wartortle, another blue tortoise with similar traits. Wartortle has Pokédex entries mentioning a lifespan over 10,000 years, which could make sense if it was once mistaken for Terrapagos. Starting from number 1, the theme of time travel emerges. At the beginning of the game, the player originally from Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, or the remakes is sent back in time by Arceus. Arceus says, "If you seek out all Pokémon, you shall find me again." This might simply mean that finding all Pokémon will lead to another encounter, or it could imply that the events follow the original games and the player may have already met Arceus in the Hall of Origin event, which could appear in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Next is Professor Laventon, and most characters seem to be ancestors of familiar figures. Laventon is likely the ancestor of both Hop and Leon from the Galar region. We know Hop's ancestry goes back to the old Sinnoh region, as shown by the Croagunk statue in his room, a statue also found in Pastoria City. The player character's shirt is also a clue. Lucas wears one from the Sinnoh region, and Dawn wears one from Galar. Professor Laventon points out that Pokémon have a remarkable ability. One of the first games that sparked my interest in these kinds of topics featured a detail I really liked inside certain houses. There's a map on the top right corner wall, which turns out to be Pokearth from SB.net. A friend was especially proud of that. As a side note, I also created a map of the Pokémon world, and once asked the person behind C.net to update Pokearth with it, but he declined, saying his version was already in the game. Fair enough. In Pokémon Sunday and Moon, there's a direct reference to Giovanni, hinting at the upcoming Rainbow Rocket episode. In the Melee City Garden, which features architecture similar to Kanto and Johto, there's a bridge reminiscent of Nugget Bridge from Generation I. You face trainers across it, and eventually battle someone with an Ekans, who asks if you want to join Team Rocketta, direct nod to the original Rocket Grunt. He then says he's joking and wonders what Giovanni is up to these days, setting the stage for Ultra Sunday and Ultra Moon. In Ultra Sunday and Ultra Moon, my favourite reference is to the GS Bowl, originally featured in the Pokémon anime and only in the Japanese version of Pokémon Crystal. It was meant to unlock access to Celebi, though that plotline was dropped after the Pokémon Forever movie. In this game, the GS Ball is finally mentioned again after nearly 20 years, referred to as the greatest smith, but implying it can only be opened by a master craftsman like Kurt, who is one of the best Pokeball makers in the series. Speaking of Pokemon Forever, there's a direct reference to it in Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. In Professor Oak's lab, on the top of a bookshelf, There's a notebook or sketchbook that matches the one a young Professor Oak used to draw Celebi and Pikachu in the movie. Moving into Pokémon Sword and Shield, the 7th Pokémon gym is in Spikemuth. Walking through its dark alleyways, there are neon signs, posters, and scraps of paper everywhere. One of them oddly references the beauty trainer class from Generation 2. It's a blink and you miss it kind of Easter egg, with no clear reason for being there, but it's fun. In Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, although they're faithful remakes of Generation 4, there is a change in Sunnyshore's City. In the original, a giant stone statue of a Munchlax stands off the coast, but in the remakes, it's been replaced with a fully evolved Snorlax. Pokémon Legends, Arceus is full of hidden secrets and references. A standout for me is the character relationships. Many are ancestors of characters from other games. One character, Charm of the Misfortunes, seems to be an ancestor of both Agatha and Bertha. She uses a Rhydon and a Gengar Pokémon associated with each of those trainers. They were once briefly linked by Chantel of the Unova Elite Four, who noted a similar vibe between them. Now, in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, the names seem to reference Red and Blue. The trailers suggest a strong theme of time travel, which might indicate a major role in the game. This could also symbolize a new beginning for the franchise, as Scarlet and Violet are shades of the original Red and Blue, suggesting a return to the roots. Finally, my favorite Easter egg in the entire franchise is from Pokémon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. On Route 38, west of Ecruteak City, there's a Birdkeeper trainer named. The name Birdkeeper Toby appears to be a direct reference, even though the YouTube channel didn't exist when Pokémon Gold, Silver, or their remakes Heart Gold and Soul Silver were released. It seems like Game Freak might have anticipated this all along. Were there any secrets, Easter eggs, or references in this video you hadn't noticed before? If so, feel free to share. Last week, a video was made inspired by a concept from Zeltic, featuring a favorite Easter egg from each mainline Pokémon game. Now, as a running gag, that idea is being reused this time, focusing on recurring Easter eggs across the franchise. It's not a complete rip-off, as permission was sought, and the goal is simply to apply the same concept to Pokémon. This means looking back through the main series, and maybe even the Animefa gags and references that show up repeatedly. These are interesting because, on their own, they might seem insignificant, but viewed across the entire franchise, they become recognizable patterns. One notable recurring Easter egg is youngster Joey and his top percentage Rattata. Originally appearing as a trainer bragging about his Rattata after Pewter City, Joey returned in Generation 2 after Cherry Grove City. Whether it's the same Joey is unknown, especially since different Joeys appear in other games, like one with a Zigzagoon in Unova, or others with different Pokémon in X, Y, Sunday and Moon. In Gold, Silver, and Heart Gold, he even evolves his Rattata into Raticate but still talks about Rattata. Eventually, in Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, he matures into Birdkeeper Joey. Another famous early game NPC is the one who says, "I like shorts, they're comfy and easy to wear." Unlike others who comment on their Pokemon's strength or toughness, this line became iconic and has reappeared in various forms. In Black and White 2, a woman comments similarly about a dress, and other games continue this theme of trainers talking about their comfortable clothes. It's a wholesome pattern, in contrast to the darker elements found in the Pokémon world. A creepy example emerged in Pokémon X and Y, where players encountered a mysterious girl in an elevator in Lumiose City. With no explanation, the lights flicker, she appears, and then vanishes after saying, "No, you're not the one." This character sparked much curiosity. But she's not alone. Ghostly figures have been present as far back as Diamond and Pearl in the old chateau, with a little girl's ghost wandering the halls. In Black and White and their sequels, there's a subplot about a lost girl, with an Abra inside a Darkrai nightmare. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire include perhaps the most hidden ghost girl, appearing for a split second in the room of Elite Four member Phoebe. This could hint at Mimikyu's arrival in the next generation. In Sword and Shield, in Hammerlock, there's an old letter from a little girl. When delivered, the recipient is shocked to hear the sender had died long ago. In her home, someone talks to a wall, adding to the eerie atmosphere. The Pokémon world is full of such unsettling moments. In Pokémon Legends, Arceus, the Pokémon Spiritomb, is obtained through a quest from a young girl possessed by a ghost. Her name is Vessa, which appears to be a play on the word vessel. Interestingly, many ghost-type experts in the Pokémon world are women, including members of the Elite Four, gym leaders, and trial captains, such as Agatha, Phoebe, Fantina, Chantal, and Acerola. A more wholesome Easter egg can be seen in the early moments of most Pokémon games. As players leave their bedroom, a Nintendo console is usually visibleranging from the SNES to the Switch. In the case of the Switch, its in-game appearance changes based on the Joy-Con colors attached to the player's actual console. The only exception is Pokémon Legends, Arceus, set in the past, which doesn't show a console in the bedroom. However, unused game data includes a model of a bedroom with a Nintendo Switch. Another recurring Easter egg is the presence of Game Freak staff within the games. They often appear in various locations like Celadon City, Celestica City, and Hihia Beach, and are shown vacationing in places like Lily Cove, Hotel Grand Lake, and other regions. In recent games, these staff members may challenge players to battles and offer rewards, such as the Shiny Charm or Oval Charm, or they may simply congratulate players on completing the Pokédex. A common trope in the games involves power plants being tied to legendary Pokémon. It started in red, blue, and yellow with Zapdos in the power plant. This continued in later titles, though many power plants became inaccessible. In X and Y, certain areas of the Kalos power plant were locked, and players speculated they might be used for event distributions, such as for Volcanion, but that never happened. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Volcanion was distributed independently. Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald featured a one-floor Moorville power plant with a mysterious block staircase. Sunday, Moon, and Ultra Sun. Ultra Moon had the geothermal plant at Blush Mountain, which was viewable but inaccessible. In Sword and Shield, there's a power plant visible near Route 3 by Motorstoke, tied to Chairman Rose, but access is blocked by a small rope. The recurring inaccessibility of these power plants raises the question, are they just an ongoing joke, or will one eventually contain a legendary Pokémon? Another long-running line in the series is, "The power of science is amazing." This phrase has appeared since the first games in Pallet Town and recurs throughout the franchise, including in the anime, particularly during the XY and XYZ arcs, where Clement's inventions would often prompt Ash to say, "Science is amazing." A final recurring Easter egg isn't from the games, but from the movies. Starting with the 2005 film Lucario and the Mystery of Mew, a mother and daughter have appeared in nearly every Pokémon movie. Though absent in the film immediately after, they became a regular presence from then on. They started as a mystery, but have since appeared in every major Pokémon animated film, starting with The Rise of Darkrai. They've also been featured in a Mega Evolution short with Latios and Latias, a special titled A Ripple in Time, and most recently in the CGI movie Mewtwo Strikes Back, Evolution, where they appear in the end credits. These are just a few of the recurring Easter eggs from across the Pokémon series. Now on to 50 Easter eggs in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet. Right from the opening cutscene, we see classrooms in Mesagoza City, within the Paldea region. The history teacher, Miss Ryfort, is a standout character. She teaches Pokémon lore and wears accessories themed after legendary Pokémon. A Marshadow hair clip, an Articuno necklace, a Lunala belt, and what looks like either a Zygarde or Tapu design on her wrist. In another classroom, a teacher stands in front of an image of the altar of the sun and wears an Alolan Raichu pin, clearly indicating he's teaching about the Alola region, even though he never directly mentions it. At the start of the game, in your house, there's a substitute doll on a shelf, and multiple signs suggest you're from the Galar region. Your mum offers tea to the principal. There's a pet Squovet, and stickers in your bedroom feature Galar Pokémon. Outside, you'll meet the Power of Science's amazing guy who appears in most Pokémon games, originally from Pallet Town. At Nemona's house, you'll find abstract artwork that subtly includes a Greninjade's feet, and tongue are visible if you look closely. Soon after, you meet Arven, who begins the story with a rude attitude but becomes kinder later on. He's related to the game's professors, Sada and Turo, which could be a nod to Gary Oak from Red and Blue, who was also your rival and the grandson of Professor Oak. In Mesagoza City, you meet another teacher named Jack. He might be a descendant of Adaman from Pokémon Legends, Arceus, as they share similar hairstyles. Arceus featured several ancestral characters of known figures, but Adaman's lineage was unclear until now. The professors, Sada and Turo, are themselves references to the past and future, with their names derived from the Spanish words pasado, past, and futuro, future. Mesagoza also has a large plaza representing all Pokémon types, aligning with the game's terrestrialization mechanic, which allows any Pokémon to take on any type. The Pokeball in the center has a crystal showing all the type colors. Early in the overworld, you might encounter a Gimmighoul. Its antennae resemble the original item finder from Generation 1, now called the Dowsing Machine. Fittingly, Gimmighoul's goal is to find and collect items, specifically coins. Its coin even bears the face of a bronze or another hidden Easter egg. The Pokédex entries mention the mysterious pattern on its back, but not much about its face. The Vivillon found in this region might seem unfamiliar because they were originally only available during a special event when Pokémon X and Y were released. These Vivillon aren't native to any specific region, making this a unique way to reintroduce a Pokémon that hasn't been available for years. During the battle with the Bug-type gym leader in this town, you'll encounter a terrestrialized Pokémon. While many Terra combinations are interesting for their typings, the Bug Terra is a reference to the term bugbear, which means something that causes obsessive fear, anxiety, or irritation. Similarly, Sudowoodo being a grass type plays on its concept of pretending to be a tree now it's literally a fake tree. The Ghost Terra type gym also directly references the ghosts from Lavender Town's Pokémon Tower in Generation 1, replicating how ghost Pokémon originally appeared back then. The Flying Terra crown was designed with Pikachu in mind, resembling the Flying Pikachu from the card game, which recently won the Pokémon World Championships. Terrestrialized Pokémon also draw inspiration from Crystal Pokémon, which have appeared multiple times in the franchise, such as in the card game where they utilize different types of energy, and the Crystal Onyx, thought to be a different form of Onyx, though it hasn't been made canon in the games. In the Psychic-type Gym City, there are murals made of mosaic patterns that recreate the overworld sprites of Generation 1 Pokémon. The gym leader, Iono, sports Magnemite-shaped hair clips, one of which is pink. Before the game's release, this led to speculation about a new Magnemite form. This trend also appeared with Clara in the Isle of Armor DLC, where her different-colored Dustox hair clip sparked similar rumors about new forms. One of Team Star's bases, Team Na'vi, is located in a forest, which might be a reference to Na'vi, the fairy from the Kokiri forest in The Legend of Zelda. The Let's Go feature, where Pokémon travel alongside you, is a nod to Pokémon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which themselves are inspired by Pokémon Go. Palmy evolves in a way that contains two notable references. One ties to Gorochu, an unreleased third-stage evolution of Pikachu that was planned to be more orange. The shiny form of Palmy also resembles an unreleased Beta Bear Pokémon that was intended as a starter in Generation 2. The new Wooper evolution takes inspiration from the Beta Generation 2 Wooper, which stayed on all fours. If you ride your Miraidon or Koraidon at full speed and pull back, you'll perform a mini slide, referencing the Akira slide seen across various anime and media. This generation introduces Wiglet and Wugtrio, adding to a trend of Diglett variants. Previously, there were Alolan Diglett and Dugtrio, Diglett side quests in the Isle of Armor and Grand Underground, and even a giant Diglett statue in Sword and Shield. Wooper's new poison typing in the Paldea region directly connects to Pokédex entries that describe it covering itself in a poisonous film when on land, but needing to return to water to avoid drying out. Do you like this personality? It eventually becomes a ground type. Another interesting Pokédex entry is from AOS, which directly references events from Generation 2, noting its suitability as a lighthouse Pokémon. Regidrago has a Pokédex entry in Sword and Shield that says it's made of crystallized dragon energy. Terra Pokémon are also formed from crystallized Pokémon energy, and the Terra crown for dragon types closely resembles Regidrago's head, almost identical except for the nose. There's a unique artistic landmark in Artisan, directly referencing a secret base item from Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. This detail might have been missed if not pointed out on social media. A character recommends shopping more because the store is run by someone named Bagan, the same name as the person who expands your bag space in Pokémon Legends, Arceus. The Corviknight taxi service has been replaced by Squawkabilly, since Corviknight is reportedly harassed by Tinkaton, despite both being Steel-type, though Tinkaton is also Fairy-type, which could explain the issue. The fast travel method remains the same as in Sword and Shield. Shops display Galar logos, originally seen in Sword and Shield on banners and store signs. A book found in the school references events from Sword and Shield, including the destruction of a mural by a character named Karaja, placing those events at least a year before this game. It's believed to be the book Sonia was writing at the end of Sword and Shield. Interestingly, Sonia doesn't blame Bede, even though it was clearly his fault. As the story progresses, reading notes from Sada and Tura reveals the other professor exists in the alternate version of the game. Sada's diary mentions Tura leaving, and Tura's diary mentions Sada vanishing. Penny is originally from the Galar region, mentioned during Team Star's backstory when one member was sent back home. That student was Penny. Anialape's existence is based on older Pokédex entries that say Primeape can become so angry it dies. The gym leader, Rhyme, resides in a town where lampposts resemble Lampent, though Lampent itself doesn't appear in this game, despite its clear link to Litwick. In class, Miss Rayfort says she wishes she had a time machine to better study history, foreshadowing the game's plot centered around such a machine. The Scarlet and Violet book found in the school contains drawings of legendary Pokémon based on speculation, much like a book shown in the third Pokémon movie with artistic interpretations of legendaries. During a history class, if you answer that the Survey Corps went into the Great Crater of Paldea, you learn they did similar work, referencing the group from Pokémon Legends, Arceus. A drawing in the book hints at a possible new legendary Pokémon, suggesting there's more to come in this region. One of the teachers also bears a strong resemblance to Drayden from Generation 5. While this may not be widely recognized, it's noted as a potential Easter egg. Finally, a character named Time is seen in the hallway, hinting at possible character connections. Is this conversation helpful so far? She might mention that you startled her like a ghost, or that she saw a ghost. She's related to the ghost type, Gym Leader, and both their names rhyme and have ties to ghosts. After completing the game, a photo with your friends appears in your bedroom, the same one shown at the end of the credits. The Joy-Cons on your in-game Switch match the ones you're using in real life, a detail present in most Pokémon Switch games except Legends. Arceus, which only has a Switch dock since it's set in the past. Other meta Easter eggs include the Scarlet and Violet book, which resembles the game case, with cover accents and the Pokémon on it meant to mirror each other. Trailers even show the book turning into the case. In the Great Crater of Paldea, players with the Scarlet version can encounter Roaring Moon, a past form of Salamence. Its Pokédex entry refers to a phenomenon in another region, confirming that Mega Evolution exists in this world, referencing Mega Salamence. In Violet, the future form of Tyranitar, Iron Thorns, nods to both Mecha Godzilla, since Tyranitar is inspired by Godzilla, and a movie Pokémon from Generation 5. In the same cave where you find Iron Valiant or Roaring Moon, there are mysterious runes on the ground that also appear on the game's box art. Their meaning is still unclear. The box art also shows a symbol resembling a sextant, an item used for navigation, which appears in the game and is mentioned in the Scarlet and Violet book. Inside that book are hints at future downloadable content, including a combined version of the legendary beasts in Scarlet and the Swords of Justice in Violet. Interestingly, the Pokémon from each trio share the same heights as those in the opposite version, a strange detail. Another Easter egg involves a nod to Missing Number. It's not just about the glitchiness of the games, but an intentional reference seen in the marketing. In a trailer featuring a certain Pokémon, the camera stutters, revealing several missing number and the number 53. Additionally, in the background of a classroom scene, you can spot Professor Laventon and old-style Pokeballs from Legends Arceus. While Scarlet and Violet don't have as many secrets as some might hope, there are still a few scattered throughout, like the shops in Messagoza City matching those from Hulbury in Sword and Shield. Though minor, it's a neat detail. Finally, early in the DLC, it's mentioned that Blueberry Academy is in the Unova region, a piece of world building that connects regions, something that was mostly absent in Sword and Shield. Originally, you could go and visit different places, but now the story moves to the Indigo Disc at Blueberry Academy in the upcoming DLC after the Teal Mask. This time, the destination is the Unova region. This connects directly to Drayton, who is the grandson of Drayden, the dragon-type gym leader from Unova. Drayton is a strong trainer and uses a dragon-type Pokémon called Archaludon, which resembles a massive suspension bridge, while Duraludon in the Galar region evolved to resemble skyscrapers in Unova. They adapted to their surroundings by taking the form of a bridge. This supports the idea that Keetak is not part of the Paldea region. It's mentioned early on that it's very far away, and when traveling there, a plane icon appears, suggesting it's a long journey. There's more to this. A detail found on Twitter points out that each map has a different clock, operating in separate time zones. When it's daytime in Paldea, it's nighttime in Kitakami, implying they're on opposite sides of the world. Additionally, in real life, there is a location called Kame just south of Hokkaido, the area that inspired the Kitakami region. There are references to Hisui through a new character who is a descendant of Adaman, wearing a piece of Hisuian Growlithe and featuring Hisui-related statues. Upon arriving in Kame after a long plane and bus ride, players encounter many Jotonian Pokémon and rice fields resembling parts of Japan. Next, it's revealed that Briar is a descendant of Heath. She wears an outfit inspired by Koraidon and Miraidon and possesses the original manuscript of the Scarlet and Violet book. This manuscript includes content considered too unbelievable for the final publication, possibly notes about the future Paradox Pokémon not included in the Scarlet book, and ancient Pokémon excluded from the Violet book, with only Briar aware of them. During a side story in the Kitakami area, players meet an eccentric couple who refer to the player as a commoner, clearly wealthy individuals. They can be followed around the Paldea region and return after an initial battle, expressing interest in sightseeing. Players can track them across various locations to earn rewards like Pokédollars, nuggets, and more. They call themselves Onir and Billy, part of the Glitterati, seemingly disconnected from everyday life. Onir frequently challenges the player to battles. Some fans speculate that they are the parents of Nemona, who, like Onir, enjoys battling, and once mentioned that her parents run a prominent Pokémon company, the Rotom Phone Company. Eventually, it's revealed that Onir is the CEO, possibly confirming the theory. Finally, a small but favourite Easter egg is that all Nosepass Pokémon point north, in line with their Pokédex description. This level of detail, also seen in Legends Arceus, continues here across regions like Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, and Kitakami. Do you like this personality? Kai is the one who created this, so that explains number 7. In the background of a shot featuring Kofu and Larry, there appears to be a fossil resembling Shieldon. While this is a neat Easter egg, it's not entirely new. In Scarlet and Violet, fossils can also be seen in Clavel's office, including one that looks like an ancient Cyclizar fossil, which hints that Koraidon and Miraidon might not be what they seem. At number 8, we're at least getting Raging Bolt and Iron Crown, but it's likely we'll also see past and future forms of Entei and Terrakion. Interestingly, the Swords of Justice and the legendary beasts seem connected by height. Virizion is as tall as Suicune, Cobalion matches Azelf, and Entei equals Terrakion in height, yet none match Raging Bolt's height. Number 9 features Ditto transforming into cube shapes throughout Blueberry Academy. Ditto has taken the form of objects before, though not often. These cubes appear to be made of gemstones tied to Area Zero's core, which contains special life energy. It seems Ditto is mimicking what it perceives as life. This is similar to the Diglett hunt in the Isle of Armor. Number 10 introduces a new character, possibly named Mr. Snackums or Snackman. Larry's gym isn't actually his, it's a restaurant he frequents. He's not officially a gym leader there and is more often part of the Elite Four. That building displays posters for the teal mask in the Kame celebration, implying the real gym owner travels extensively. This ties into the character Snacksworth, who is knowledgeable about legendary Pokémon and uses food as a theme. Accessing these Pokémon involves special meals, and there's even a hidden menu in Larry's gym that grants extra Terra shards, suggesting a deeper connection. Finally, number 11 is a bonus detail about Terrapagos' designer large blue tortoise with a wispy tail. It's ancient and enduring, and this may relate to Wartortle, another blue tortoise with a similar tail. Wartortle's Pokédex mentions it can live over 10,000 years, which might now make sense if it's been mistaken for Terrapagos. Starting off, number 1 references time travel. At the game's start, the player character from Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, or their remakes, is sent back in time by Arceus. Arceus says that seeking out all Pokémon will lead to another meeting. This could either be a simple instruction or a reference to prior encounters with Arceus in events like the Hall of Origin, which might become available in the future. The game introduces Professor Laventon, and most characters appear to be ancestors of known characters. Laventon seems to be related to both Hop and Leon from Galar. Hop's heritage traces back to the Hisui region, as shown by a Krogunk statue in his room similar to one found in Pastoria City. Also, the player's outfit connects to past regions. Lucas wears a Hisui-style shirt, and Dawn wears one linked to Galar. Professor Laventon also highlights the amazing potential of Pokémon. Kai is the one who designed this, and in the background of one of the scenes, possibly with Kofu and Lariu, can spot what appears to be a Shieldon fossil. It's a subtle Easter egg, though not new, as similar fossils appear in Scarlet and Violet, specifically in Clavel's office. There, fossils resembling ancient versions of Cyclizar can be seen, hinting that Koraidon and Miraidon might not be what they seem. At the very least, we're getting Raging Bolt and Iron Crown, but it's likely we'll also see past and future versions of Entei and Terrakion. Interestingly, the Swords of Justice and the legendary beasts share a height-based connection. Virizion matches Suicune, Cobalion matches Raikou, and Entei is the same height as Terrakion, though none are taller than Raging Bolt now. Next, Ditto appears in cube form across Blueberry Academy. While Ditto mimicking objects isn't unheard of, it's rare. These cubes might be composed of the special gemstones found in Area 0, containing unique life energy. Ditto could be imitating what it interprets as life. This feature is similar to the Diglett hunt from the Isle of Armor. Another detail involves Larry. He isn't truly the gym leader, he just works there temporarily. That location is actually a restaurant he enjoys visiting. Posters on the building reference the teal mask and the Kame celebration, suggesting the real gym leader is well traveled. The character Snacksworth, who is deeply familiar with the legendary Pokémon, seems tied to this. Access to these Pokémon involves specific meals, and Larry's gym also has a secret menu tied to earning extra Terra shards, indicating a connection. Finally, there's Trapos, a large blue tortoise with a wispy tail. Its design may be linked to Wartortle, another ancient-looking blue turtle Pokémon. Wartortle's Pokédex entries mention it living for over 10,000 years, which could make sense if it were confused for Trapos. This is more theory than Easter egg. At the beginning of the game, there's time travel. The player character from Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, or the remakes is sent back in time by Arceus. Arceus tells you that finding all Pokémon will lead to another meeting, which might simply refer to completing the Pokédex, or it might allude to prior encounters with Arceus in the Hall of Origin event, potentially arriving in the remakes. One of the first new characters introduced is Professor Laventon, who, like the rest of the cast, appears to be an ancestor of known characters. He seems to be an ancestor of Hop and Leon from Galar. Hop's heritage traces back to the Hisui region, supported by the Krogunk statue, in his room identical to the one in Pastoria City. If you're playing as Lucas or Dawn, your character's shirt references their respective regions. Lucas is from Sinnoh, Dawn's from Galar. Professor Laventon also notes that Pokémon possess incredible capabilities. Kai is the one who created this design. Number 7. In the background of a scene featuring Kofu and Larry, there's what appears to be a fossil of Shieldon. It's a neat Easter egg. Though not entirely new, Scarlet and Violet already showed fossils in Clavel's office, including one resembling an ancient Cyclizar fossil, suggesting Coridon and Miraidon might not be what they appear to be. Number 8. At the very least, we'll get Raging Bolt and Iron Crown, but it's likely we'll also see past and future forms of Entei and Terrakion. Interestingly, the legendary beasts and the Swords of Justice are linked by height. Virizion and Suicune are the same height. Cobalion matches Raikou, and Entei matches Terrakion, but none are as tall as Raging Bolt. Number 9. Ditto is transforming into cube shapes throughout Blueberry Academy. This is especially intriguing because Ditto doesn't usually take the form of inanimate objects, though it has happened before. These cubes seem to be made of the same crystal material found in Area 0, which contains life energy. Ditto might be imitating what it senses as living energy. This feature is similar to the Diglett search in the Isle of Armor. Number 10. Larry, who was mentioned earlier, connects to a new character named Mr. Snackcomser, maybe Snackman. Larry's gym isn't actually his. It's a restaurant he frequents. He's not a full-time gym leader there, more like a substitute. He's also an Elite Four member. The building features posters of the Teal Mask and Kame celebrations, suggesting its actual owner is well-travelled. This ties in with Snacksworth, a lore expert on legendary Pokémon. His name reflects his food theme, and these legendary Pokémon are accessed via special meals. Larry's gym even has a secret menu for getting extra Terra shards, indicating a connection. Number 11. A bonus. The design of Terra Pagosa, large blue tortoise with a wispy tail that seems ancient and eternal might linked to Wartortle. This is more of a theory than an Easter egg. Wartortle, one of the original Pokémon, also has a wispy tail and is said to live over 10,000 years in its Pokédex entries. These entries could make more sense if Wartortle had been mistaken for Terrapagos. Starting with number 1, time travel. At the beginning of the game, the player is sent back in time by Arceus and is implied to be the same character from Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, or their remakes. Arceus says, "If you seek out all Pokémon, thou shalt find me again." This might simply mean you'll encounter Arceus again after catching all Pokémon, or it could imply the game takes place after the events of Diamond and Pearl from the player's perspective, possibly hinting that the player has already met Arceus in the Hall of Origin, which could be featured in an event for Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. The first new character introduced is Professor Laventon. Many characters in this game appear to be ancestors of known characters. Laventon seems to be the ancestor of both Hop and Leon from Galar. Evidence for this includes the Krogunk statue in Hop's room, which also appears in Pastoria City in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, suggesting his roots go back to the Sinnoh region. Also, the player character's shirt hints at their origin. If playing as Lucas, the shirt is from the Sinnoh region. If playing as Dawn, it's from Galar. Professor Laventon mentions Pokémon's amazing ability to, while surfing near Bassia Legion, we can explore Romanus Island in the Obsidian Field Lanson area that will eventually become Romanus Park, which is also where the park gets its name. This makes sense, as it's to the right of Sandom FL, the future location of Sanum Town. North of that lies Lake Verity. Further east, we see the Moss Rock, used to evolve Eevee into Leafeon. Many assume this means the area will become Eterna Forest, and the music even supports that idea. However, that seems unlikely since the Moss Rock is south of Romanus Island, which doesn't align geographically. The Oboe mine is placed accurately in relation to Romanus Island, suggesting that Eterna Forest is elsewhere. Lake Verity is now accessible and fits logically with the Marshall Lands location. Ingo appears like the player. He has fallen through the space-time rift. He isn't an ancestor of anyone but comes from the Black and White games, where he ran the Battle Subway. In town, you can visit the clothing shop, which includes many outfit references. One notable set is the classic Galactic outfit. a nod to Team Galactic's uniform, likely just a small Easter egg. Later in the game, the Sevi kitchen appears on the map, referencing the Sevi Islands from the Kanto region, though the building remains inaccessible. In the Coronet Highlands, we meet Melly, ancestor to Avery from the Sword and Shield DLC. He uses poison Pokémon like Galarian Slowbro. Upon entering the Highlands, Lington comments on the magnetic field around Mount Coronetta, nod to how certain Pokémon evolve via magnetism, like Magneton to Magnezone. To reach Mount Coronet, players pass through Wayward Cave, a returning location from Diamond and Pearl. The cave path dips down, likely beneath where the cycling road would be. In the cave, Ingo talks about his past, mentioning a fiery partner is Chandelure and his twin brother, Emmett. At the cave's end, Ingo calls it the cave's terminus, possibly referencing Kalos's Terminus Cave, known for abandoned train tracks, which fits Ingo's train-themed dialogue. Later, we learn the Pearl clan has snow goggles to keep snow out of their eyes, though only Irida is seen with them, despite not living in a snowy area. Ingo also remembers HMs, or hidden moves, from the future, as seen in the Unova games. Previously, it was suggested that Eterna Forest isn't in the Obsidian Fieldland. If we travel north, we reach the western edge of the Coronet Highlands, where a strange cemetery appears. Here, Misdreavus and Rotom can be found both associated with the original Eterna Forest. This area, along with its location near Wayward Cave, the old cycling road, and Mount Coronet, supports the idea that it will become the future Eterna Forest and Old Chateau. Continuing east, we find statues of Dialga, Palkia, and a broken one of Giratina, reinforcing that this region will eventually become Eterna City. A character ends up staying in the past and becomes their own ancestor. Moving on, we're introduced to Captain Selene, who is the ancestor of Cyrus. Cyrus also had some mysterious time travel involvement, though the details remain unclear. What we do know is that Selene is portrayed as a hero and aligns with the protagonists. This contrast to Cyrus hints at character-related twists later in the story. When the space-time rift appears, RGB-coloured lights are visible. This is a direct reference to the light seen when Cyrus opens space and time in the climax of Diamond and Pearl. It's possible the rift in this game is linked to Cyrus's past actions in Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, Brilliant Diamond, or Shining Pearl. Near the Galaxy Team headquarters, in the medical ward, we meet the origin of the Nurse Joy line. Interestingly, she also resembles Mira, a companion character from Diamond and Pearl, due to their identical hairstyles. A small but easy to miss detail involves the coat racks scattered throughout the building, which appear to be shaped like or perhaps made from Stantler antlers. Hopefully, they're just designed to look that way. Volo is also introduced, and he's the ancestor of Cynthia. By the game's conclusion, it's clear he's been testing the player's strength. The first major region explored is the Obsidian Fieldlands, named oddly considering the lack of volcanoes. Later it's revealed that Lake Verity was once a volcano, meaning the region was once covered in volcanic glaciance, the name. Players report to Commander Kamado, who is the ancestor of Professor Rowan. An interesting detail on his desk includes a photo of him with what seems to be a partner, suggesting a deeper backstory. Pokeballs are crafted using apricorns, a nod to Kurt from the Johto region, the last known person to make Pokeballs by hand before mass production began. This introduces a new variety of Pokeballs in the game. Examining the map's northwest section reveals the Florio Gardens, which later inspire Floroma Town. A special event involving Shaman causes flowers to bloom in what was once a barren area, referencing an event mentioned in Diamond and Pearl as the origin of Floroma Town. Continuing with the story, players meet Mai of the Diamond Clan, who is Marley's ancestor. She's the guardian of Wyrdeer, described by Professor Laventon as similar to ride Pokémon from Alola, implying such Pokémon existed even in ancient times though, perhaps activated by another kind of flute instead of the Poke Ride gear. Next are the clan leaders Adaman and Irida, the only characters with no clear ancestral ties, though their clothing hints at them becoming the holders of the adamant and lustrous orbs Irida's attire as a small pearl, and Adaman's features a diamond. Another identifiable ancestor is Sanqua in the Galactic Building, who appears to be the forerunner of Karen from Johto's Elite Four. The Ouroboros Tunnel clearly becomes Ouroberg Mine, located near Cleavor. The Pokémon website mentions Cleavor's tools were used by ancient people from Hisui. In modern-day Ouroberg City, the museum displays similar stone tools. Cleavor's warden is Leon, who is the ancestor of Clay. Players also get to use the Celestica flute, which eventually becomes the Azure flute, seen at the Spear Pillar in Diamond and Pearl. The entire game acts as a reference to ancient legends. The game draws clear inspiration from various well-known tropes, with one example being the Dryfloon balloon race, which is reminiscent of riding around a ranch on horseback shooting arrows similar to certain iconic horseback sequences. The musical changes also seem influenced by this style. For instance, character names often use puns, like Bagan, who expands your bag space, and Vessa, who gives the Spiritomb quest playing on the word vessel, hinting at possession. This may tie into the character in Diamond and Pearl who silently gives you the odd keystone. Arzu appears to be the ancestor of Commander Mars, Ginter of Volna, and there's also Thule from the Ginkgo Guild. Some characters share visual designs, making it unclear if they're important or just common models. At one point, you can access a guaranteed shiny Pokémon Ponyta possibly chosen due to the game's strong theme around legendary horses, echoed by forms of Dialga, Palkia, Arceus, and recent additions like Ceruledge, Spectria, and Glastria. The shiny Rapidash in this version also has a slightly more purple hue. Entering the Crimson Mirelands, the area reflects what will eventually become Pastoria City, its surrounding routes, the Safari Zone, and perhaps Mr. Backlot's mansion. It also features the Salacian ruins, which predate the events of this game and were built by people from Johto and Hisui. A group of female bandits called the Misfortunes includes Charm, ancestor to Agatha and Bertha, tying their character lines together through Pokémon like Gengar and Rhyperior. Coin is Saturn's ancestor, and Clover is linked to Candice, the Ice-type gym leader. There's also a nod to the group of Psyduck in Diamond and Pearl, who suffer from headaches and need the secret potion. In the Shrouded Ruins, a large odd keystone is found. While it initially seems it could become the Hallowed Tower, its location doesn't match up, placing it as a new area instead. This still serves as a reference to Spiritomb and Keystones. Map-wise, the Cobalt Coastlands show Veilstone Cape in a different location than expected. Given its proximity to Sendoff Spring, referencing Turnback Cave and Sendoff Spring from previous games, it seems Veilstone Cape inspired the town's name. In Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, Veilstone is said to be formed by meteorite impacts, which fits this idea. At this stage, the game gives access to Turnback Cave and Sendoff Spring, which are visually similar to their previous incarnations. Characters like Polina and Iskin appear, though their lineage is unclear. Polina might be related to May due to similar headgear, while Iskin could be linked to Nessa based on artwork poses that vaguely resemble her from Sword and Shield. These are tentative guesses, and there may be better matches. Finally, in comparing Hisui's and Sinnoh's maps, Fire Pit Island aligns with Stark Mountain now that it's accessible. While surfing the Abbasia Legion, you can visit Romanus Island in the Obsidian Fieldlands. This location is set to become Romanus Park, which makes sense as it lies to the right of what will eventually be Sanam Town. North of this area is Lake Verity. Further east is Moss Rock, where an Eevee can evolve into Leafeon. Many assume this area will become Eterna Forest, and the background music even suggests that. However, that seems unlikely because Moss Rock is situated farther south than Romanus Island, which doesn't align with Eterna Forest's usual position. Interestingly, the Oboe Mine is exactly where expected in relation to Romanus Island, suggesting that Eterna Forest must be located elsewhere. Lake Verity is now accessible, and its position near the Marshall Lands makes sense. Ingo appears here. He's someone who also fell through the space-time rift. Unlike others, he's not an ancestor of anyone. He's a character from the Black and White games, where he ran the battle subway. While visiting the town, you can stop by the clothing store, which features several Easter eggs. One notable example is the classic Galactic set, a clear nod to Team Galactic's uniforms. The origins of this outfit are unknown and may simply serve as an Easter egg. At one point in the game, a new location appears called the Sevi Kitchen, noted on the map and referencing the Sevi Islands from the Kanto region. This building, however, remains inaccessible. In the Coronet Highlands, we encounter Melly, the ancestor of Avery from the Sword and Shield DLC. He specializes in poison Pokémon, similar to Avery's Galarian Slowbro. Upon entering the Highlands, Lincoln mentions the strong magnetic field around Mount Coronet, possibly referencing how certain Pokémon evolve via magnetism here. Before reaching Mount Coronet, you must pass through Wayward Cave, a familiar place from Diamond and Pearl. Interestingly, the route dips downward, possibly suggesting the future location of Cycling Road. Inside the cave, Ingo recalls his fiery partner, Pokémonist Chandelure, and references a man who resembled him, likely his twin brother, Emmett. At the cave's end, he calls it the cave's terminus. Whether this references Kalos's Terminus Cave is debatable, though it's notable considering Terminus Cave had abandoned train tracks and Ingo's association with trains. Jumping ahead in the story, we learn the Pearl Clan has something called snow goggles, used to protect their eyes from snow, though only a reader is seen with them, despite not living in a snowy area. Finally, Ingo retains knowledge of HMs, the hidden moves from the Unova games. As mentioned earlier, Eterna Forest is likely not in the Obsidian Fieldlands. If we head north, we reach the far western edge of the Coronet Highlands, where a cemetery is located. Here, you can find Mistravus and Rottenboth, commonly associated with Eterna Forest and its surroundings. This supports the idea that this area could become the future Eterna Forest and the old chateau. Moving east from this cemetery, you encounter statues of Dialga, Palkia, and a broken one of Giratina. This area appears to be what will one day become Eterna City, located just north of Wayward Cave, near Cycling Road, and close to Mount Coronet. Do you like this personality? In place number 88, Commander Com begins his journey up Mount Coronet, leaving Silene in charge. This leadership structure may have eventually led to Silene's descendants taking over the Galaxy Group, which could explain how Cyrus later came to lead Team Galactic. In Monet, we are introduced to a Lucario trainer named Rai, clearly a reference to Riley from Diamond and Pearl. At number 90, shifting slightly away from the narrative, we get an intriguing look at the Pokémon timeline. The game states that Spiritomb was sealed away 500 years ago, according to modern Pokédex entries. In the game, players collect lost spirits and bind them to an odd keystone. While this could imply the game is set 500 years in the past, it seems more likely the events take place closer to 300 years prior to the modern timeline. This is because the character who assigns the Spiritomb quest, Vesta, says the sealing happened hundreds of years ago. If it had been exactly 500 years, that language would no longer be accurate. Returning to the story at number 91, it's revealed that Commander Kamado is the same person as Wickstrom of the Elite Four in Kalos, suggesting they originate from the same region. At number 92, the Primeval Grotto contains fossils similar to those in the Sinnoh Underground in BDSP. The presence of a large basin fossil appears to be a nod to this. Also notable are the nosepaths found in the Grottidae always face north unless approached, aligning with Pokédex entries stating they naturally point north. Underneath this part of the Primeval Grotto, number 94, players can find primal ore. This might reference the massive gemstone located in the center of the Sinnoh Underground, near Celestic Town, although that connection remains speculative. At number 95, under stress, Commander Kamado's accent slips, revealing a Galarian accent. This is confirmed in the postgame when he mentions his armor is traditional Galarian, suggesting he originally came from the Galar region. Wickstrom also speaks in standard English, reinforcing the shared origin. The Origin Ball, mentioned next, couldn't be the Master Ball since the latter was invented by Sylph Company in modern times. However, its design resembles that of the Cherish Ball, used for distributing event Pokémon. This Origin Ball is the only one in the game that shakes 3 times, hinting at the future design of Pokeballs. At the end of the game, the main character looks back at Spear Pillar, in a moment reminiscent of Professor Rowan in Diamond and Pearl. In number 99, visiting the tent of the Diamond and Pearl clans, reveals Image-Zun with red hair, one with blue hair, and one resembling Alder from Generation 5. These could be early references to later characters or games, possibly hinting at a future Legends title set in Unova. The red and blue-haired figures may even be ancestors of Archie and Maxie, though that remains unclear. In the post-game, number 100, players can catch the mythical Pokémon Manaphy and its pre-evolution Phione. Manaphy is referred to as the Sea Prince, echoing its role in the Manaphy movie. At number 101, to access Manaphy, players must travel to an area once known as the Seaside Hollow, a callback to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl's book, The Sea's Legend, found in the Canalov Library. Entry to the area requires an overquill. In Entry 88, Commander Com begins his journey up Mount Cornet, leaving Silene in charge. This leadership structure may eventually lead to Silene's descendants inheriting control of the Galaxy Gang, which could explain how Cyrus came to lead Team Galactic. In the town of Monet, we meet a Lucario trainer named Rai, clearly a reference to Riley, a companion character from Diamond and Pearl. In Entry 90, stepping away from the main story, the game presents an intriguing look at the Pokémon timeline. It mentions that Spiritomb was sealed away 500 years ago, according to modern Pokédex data. In the game, players collect lost spirits and tie them to an odd keystone. The quest giver, Vesta, states that magic sealed the creature hundreds of years ago. If she's referring to the 500-year-old event, then the game's timeline must be set no later than 300 years before the modern games, as hundreds would not make sense if the event happened just 500 years ago. In Entry 91, Commander Com is revealed to be the same person as Wickstrom from the Elite Four in Kalos, suggesting they originate from the same place. Entry 92 describes the primeval grotto containing fossils, similar to those found in the Grand Underground in BDSP, such as the giant basin fossil. Nosepass in the grotto always face north unless Distabida, neat nod to their Pokédex behavior. Entry 94 highlights that beneath this area, players can find primal ore, possibly referencing a large gemstone found near Celestic Town in BDSP. Entry 95 reveals that, under stress, Commander Kamado's accent changes, revealing a Galarian origin. This is confirmed post-game when he refers to his traditional Galarian armor, linking him and Wickstrom to the Galar region. The Origin Ball appears as a substitute for the Master Ball, which doesn't exist in this time period. It resembles the Cherish Ball, used for event Pokémon. Entry 97 notes that it is the only Pokéball in the game that shakes 3 times, referencing the catching mechanic used in later games. At the game's conclusion, the protagonist looks back at Spear Pillar, reminiscent of Professor Rowan's actions in Diamond and Pearl. Entry 99 mentions portraits in the Diamond and Pearl clan's tent, depicting a red-haired man, a blue-haired man, and someone resembling Alder from Generation 5. These may be ancestors of characters like Archie and Maxie, or possibly a nod to a future Legends game set in Unova. In the post-game, players can catch the mythical Pokémon Manaphy and its predecessor Phione. Manaphy is called the Sea Prince, referencing its role in the movie. To access Manaphy, players must visit an area formerly known as Seaside Hollow, a reference to BDSP's The Sea's Legend book found in Canalave Library. Entry is granted with the help of an overquill. One of the first games that got me interested in these topics featured something I particularly like. Certain houses had a map on the top right corner of the wall, which turned out to be the PokéEarth map originally shown on SB. Net. A friend was especially proud of that detail. Separately, I had worked on a map of the Pokémon world and asked the person managing Net to update PokéEarth with it, but they declined, saying their version was already included in the game, which was fair enough. In Pokémon Sunday and Moon, there's a clear reference to Giovanni that seems to hint at the upcoming Rainbow Rocket episode. In the Melee City Garden, inspired by Kanto and Johto architecture, there's a distinctive bridge that resembles Nugget Bridge from Generation 1. You battle several trainers there, ending with one who uses an Ekans and jokingly asks if you want to join Team Rocket, clearly a nod to the original scene. He ends by wondering what Giovanni is up to these days, leading into the events of Ultra Sunday and Ultra Moon. In Ultra Sunday and Ultra Moon, a standout reference is to the GS Ball, which originally appeared in the anime and only in the Japanese version of Pokémon Crystal. It was meant to be a special item for obtaining Celebi, but that plot was dropped when the fourth movie was released. This game includes the first GS Ball reference in nearly 2 decades, describing it as the greatest Smith's Ball, a Pokeball only the finest craftsmen can access or create. This ties back to why Ash had to bring it to Kurt, one of the top Pokeball makers in the series. In Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, there's a direct nod to the Pokémon Forever movie. At the top of Professor Oak's bookshelf, there's a small notebook or sketchbook which mirrors the one young Professor Oak draws in during the movie, featuring Celebi and Pikachu. Pokémon Sword and Shield introduced the Galar region's 7th gym in Spikemuth. As you walk down its dark alley, you'll see neon lights, posters, and scraps of paper. One of them oddly references the Beauty Trainer class from Generation 2. It's unclear why this specific detail is included, but it's a subtle and fun Easter egg. In Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, even though they're faithful remakes, there's a change in Sunnyshore's city. The original Diamond and Pearl had a large stone Munchlax statue off the coast, but the remakes feature a fully evolved Snorlax instead. Pokémon Legends, Arceus is packed with hidden details and references. A favourite involves the connections between characters, many of them are ancestors to present-day characters. One, in particular, stands out. Charm of the Misfortunes seems to be an ancestor to both Agatha and Bertha, shown by her use of both a Rhydon and a Gengar. These trainers were briefly linked before, with Chantal from the Unova Elite Four noting their similar presence. Finally, in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, the names seem to echo Red and Blue, suggesting a return to the series' beginnings. The reveal trailer featured a lot of time travel symbolism, leading to speculation that time travel could play a big role. Alternatively, the theme may point to a fresh start going back to the origins of Pokémon, emphasized by the use of color shades related to the original games. And now, for the best Easter egg of all, in Pokémon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, on Route 38 west of Equitiac City, there's a Birdkeeper trainer with a unique connection. Some mushrooms missing samples of this Pokémon remain motionless in the forest, supporting the idea that the large mushroom controls Parasect's behavior. This aligns with the theory that the mushroom, not the Pokémon, is in control like a zombie. Entry 116. Raichu can release electric bursts exceeding 100,000 volts. A single hit of that power could incapacitate a Karaja from a certain region. This entry is written from the perspective of a professor from the Galar region, indicating Karaja is likely from an India-inspired area, supported by older Pokédex entries that mention an Indian elephant. Entry 117. Kadabra's entry still claims a child with mystical powers transformed into the Pokémon, though this remains unverified. It's suspected that Kadabra's spoon enhances its brainwaves, contradicting past theories suggesting Kadabra resulted from an experiment. Entry 118. Heracross has an exceptionally strong horn and great physical strength, able to throw multiple trained warriors at once, implying people have physically fought Pokémon in the past. Entry 119. Gyarados is believed to be the true identity of a legendary dragon that destroyed a village with beams of intense heat, likely referencing Hyper Beam or Dragon Rage. This ties to lore around Mahogany Town and the Lake of Rage, once a village destroyed by Gyarados. Entry 120. Gardevoir is deeply loyal to a trainer it adores, wearing a white dress reminiscent of noble women's attire symbolic of one willing to risk their life. A professor references this attire when speaking of a character who lost a brave spouse, which may explain that character's stern demeanor and fear of Pokémon. Entry 121. Pawmot's entry states it is related to the Pikachu evolutionary line, which is notable considering it's a squirrel and Pikachu is a mouse, reinforcing the close connection among Pikachu-like Pokémon. Entry 122. Hisuian Electrode's surface tissue is very similar to that of an apricorn. This supports the idea that Voltorb may have once been a plant-based life form, perhaps a mutated or parasitic apricorn, relating it to Pokémon like Amoonguss. Entry 123. Lucario, a gallant creature, emits and precisely controls energy waves, using them to sense distant beings. This energy is named aura, and the professor is credited with coining this term, establishing the foundation for the Aura Guardians. Lastly, Porygon's entry reveals it lacks a heartbeat and doesn't appear to breathe, which ties into its mysterious, artificial nature. Despite everything, it seems to work just fine, which is a completely strange phenomenon I can't even begin to explain. Porygon appears in the game through space-time distortions, which accounts for anything arriving from the future. It seems like an Easter egg, the link cable item used to evolve trade-only Pokémon, referencing how they originally evolved in the classic Red and Blue games through a physical cable. At number 125, if you explore the region with your Ursaluna and dig in the correct spots, you'll find ancient scrolls. These scrolls tell the tale of an ancient hero from the Sinnoh region, possibly from a few hundred to a few thousand years ago, when the people first settled there. This is the same hero associated with the 10 noble Pokémon featured at the shrine. As of now, not all scrolls have been found, but more information might come later. The remakes are faithful but have some notable differences and Easter eggs that might link to Legends, Arceus, or more recent Pokémon history. There are at least 10 elements in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl that are either not present in the original Diamond, Pearl, or Platinum, or now carry new meaning. Toward the end of the game, in Sunyshore City, there's a big change compared to the original version. In the original, there was a large stone Munchlax that no one in town could explain it was a heritage site. Now, in the remakes, it's a giant stone Snorlax. The Snorlax is bigger, so it's not likely someone just reshaped the Munchlax. This could point to these remakes being set in a parallel universe, as many version differences are, where the sculptor's favourite Pokémon was Snorlax instead of Munchlax. One quick Easter egg in Oreburgh City involves someone talking about Pokémon nicknames. They mention their Psyduck is nicknamed Yellow as a joke because of its colour. This likely references the long-standing confusion where people think Psyduck should be called Golduck due to its colour and Golduck should be Psyduck due to its psychic abilities. In the original Diamond and Pearl, Rotom had only one form. Platinum introduced multiple forms via the secret key item, which unlocked a hidden room in Eterna City's building. Although that content was Platinum exclusive, it's present in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. This time, the secret key is given directly rather than through a special event, giving access to all Rotom forms. It's unfortunate Rotom is only available in the post-game because it would be fun to use throughout the story. Inside Rotom's room, there are notebooks. One references the old chateau and its history with Rotom, while another is written by Charon of Team Galactic. Charon doesn't appear in these remakes, though he was exclusive to Platinum. One of the first games that sparked my interest in these kinds of topics featured a detail I really liked inside certain houses. There's a map on the top right corner wall, which turns out to be Pokearth from SB.net. A friend was especially proud of that. As a side note, I also created a map of the Pokémon world, and once asked the person behind C.net to update Pokearth with it, but he declined, saying his version was already in the game. Fair enough. In Pokémon Sunday and Moon, there's a direct reference to Giovanni, hinting at the upcoming Rainbow Rocket episode. In the Melee City Garden, which features architecture similar to Kanto and Johto, there's a bridge reminiscent of Nugget Bridge from Generation I. You face trainers across it and eventually battle someone with an Ekans who asks if you want to join Team Rocketta, direct nod to the original Rocket Grunt. He then says he's joking and wonders what Giovanni is up to these days, setting the stage for Ultra Sunday and Ultra Moon. In Ultra Sunday and Ultra Moon, my favourite reference is to the GS Bowl, originally featured in the Pokémon anime and only in the Japanese version of Pokémon Crystal. It was meant to unlock access to Celebi, though that plotline was dropped after the Pokémon Forever movie. In this game, the GS Ball is finally mentioned again after nearly 20 years, referred to as the greatest smith, but implying it can only be opened by a master craftsman like Kurt, who is one of the best Pokeball makers in the series. Speaking of Pokemon Forever, there's a direct reference to it in Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. In Professor Oak's lab, On the top of a bookshelf, there's a notebook or sketchbook that matches the one a young Professor Oak used to draw Celebi and Pikachu in the movie. Moving into Pokémon Sword and Shield, the 7th Pokémon gym is in Spikemouth. Walking through its dark alleyways, there are neon signs, posters, and scraps of paper everywhere. One of them oddly references the beauty trainer class from Generation 2. It's a blink and you miss it kind of Easter egg, with no clear reason for being there, but it's fun. In Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, although they're faithful remakes of Generation 4, there is a change in Sunnyshore's City. In the original, a giant stone statue of a Munchlax stands off the coast, but in the remakes, it's been replaced with a fully evolved Snorlax. Pokémon Legends, Arceus is full of hidden secrets and references. A standout for me is the character relationships. Many are ancestors of characters from other games. One character, Charm of the Misfortunes, seems to be an ancestor of both Agatha and Bertha. She uses a Rhydon and a Gengar Pokémon associated with each of those trainers. They were once briefly linked by Chantel of the Unova Elite Four, who noted a similar vibe between them. Now, in Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, the names seem to reference Red and Blue. The trailers suggest a strong theme of time travel, which might indicate a major role in the game. This could also symbolize a new beginning for the franchise, as Scarlet and Violet are shades of the original Red and Blue, suggesting a return to the roots. He is still mentioned, suggesting he could appear in future content, or that this is simply a retained reference without further development. Only time will tell. Do you like this personality? Number 3 might not be that simple, there's already a theory about it, but let's focus on Romanus Park, the location at the end of the game that replaces Pal Park. It's called Romanus Park because Romanus is a type of rose. Flowers have been a recurring theme in Pokémon lore, with many characters named after trees, plants, and flowers. All professors are named after trees, and in the previous game, the main antagonist was Chairman Rose, with his brother Peony both names, relating to types of roses. Now, Romanus adds a third. This pattern likely isn't a coincidence. Previously, there was a theory suggesting that Peony or Chairman Rose created Romanus Park, but that idea has been debunked by others and seems to hold less weight now. Peony's appearance in the Crown Tundra seemed to hint at a connection originally thought to be tied to legendary Pokémon hunting, but it's been clarified that he didn't expect to find them there. That said, it's still possible he later decided to capture them for Romanus Park. So, the theory isn't completely off, just less certain. The Easter egg here is the name itself. The next one involves the slates used in Romanus Park. These are known as slates for legendary Pokémon. They're placed in pedestals to summon those Pokémon. Interestingly, the slates are shaped like Game Boy and DS cartridges, matching the generation where each legendary Pokémon debuted. For example, Mewtwo's slate resembles a Game Boy cartridge, aligning with red, blue, and yellow. Rayquaza's slate resembles a Game Boy Advance cartridge, aligning with Pokémon Emerald. This idea mirrors old mechanics from the Nintendo DS era, like inserting a Game Boy cartridge into the DS to spawn certain Pokémon, or using a DS cartridge in the 3 Deciseconds Dream Radar to find specific legendaries. It's a cool nod to past systems and mechanics, though the design connection is a bit harder to interpret. It's something worth theorizing about more deeply. Number 5 isn't exclusive to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, but is worth mentioning. It was first noticed during gameplay that these games reference Pokémon timeline details. Professor Rowan has been researching Pokémon for over 60 years. At the start of the game, we learn he's been away for 4 years. A random Team Galactic scientist says he's been with them for 5 years without a promotion, confirming that Team Galactic is at least 5 years old. The closeness of these timelines raises questions. Perhaps Rowan's 4-year absence is linked to Team Galactic. He does appear in their base during a certain event. Could he be their secret leader? That's speculative territory. Still, it's interesting when thinking about the broader Pokémon timeline. While timelines vary like the separate occurrences of Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire and Ruby Sapphire, Emerald, the accepted view is that generations 1 and 3 happen at the same time, as do generations 2 and 4, a couple of years apart. That implies Team Galactic existed before the events of Red's journey and before he defeated Team Rocket. Professor Rowan wasn't even in the region during Red and Blue's timeline. Yellow, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald Rock just wasn't in the lab. Where was he? Definitely something to think about. I'm starting to form a theory now, returning to secrets, Easter eggs, and references unique to Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. For instance, number 6, with the updated graphics, we get a clearer view of the Hearthome City Church. On its front is a mural that's been shared on social media many times, with various redrawings suggesting it could depict Arceus or a form of Arceus. The mural seems to reference Mount Coronet, and the church might be dedicated to Arceus. While some Arceus-like designs are present, it might just be an artistic pattern. Maybe a new Arceus form will be revealed in Legends. Arceus, but we won't know for sure until the game releases. Number 7, this concerns timelines. In Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, the Battle Tower existed. In Omega, Ruby, and Alpha Sapphire, it didn't just a model with coming soon on it. Since Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl don't feature Mega Evolution, they likely align more closely with the Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald timeline rather than Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. That's unexpected, as remakes often follow the same timeline, but here it seems different. The multiverse idea could explain it. Also, there's a woman in the Battle Tower who says she's from Hoenn and mentions a similar tower there. Originally, that was just a reference to Pokémon Emerald, but since ORAS didn't include a battle tower, this suggests a closer connection between Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and the original Hoenn games, not ORAS. The absence of Mega Evolution supports this. It could also be part of a completely different timeline, maybe Sword and Shields but without Gigantamaxing, which fits since that's specific to Galar. Continuing with number 8. There's a certain painting seen throughout the Sinnoh region. It resembles The Starry Night by Van Gogh. It might reference that artwork or hint at a future Generation 9 region. Or it might mean nothing is reused everywhere, like how everyone has the same laptop screens and television shows. Likely just asset reuse. Number 9 introduces a new Sinnoh myth found in the Canalave library. A new book mentions the Sea Prince. Based on regional myths, this likely refers to Manaphy, which was distributed as a pre-order or early purchase bonus. In the Pokémon Ranger movie, Manaphy is called the Sea Prince during the search for the Sea Crown. The book also references the Eastern Sea, Shellos, and a large quillfish with big spines. That quillfish might be a larger Pokémon in Legends. Arceus. The Eastern Sea could refer to ancient times in that game. In the Hisui region, this quillfish might not be a noble Pokémon, but rather one of the larger, enraged Pokémon that tends to be more aggressive. Just a thought, but this could be a direct reference to Legends. Arceus maybe will see some involvement from Manaphy as well. I also have a theory about this that I'm currently developing and will share soon. Now, regarding parts 10A and 10B, I was exploring the Orberg Museum, noticing how all the assets have been updated from their original pixel art. I was hoping to find ancient tools that could be a reference to Cleavor, but from what I can tell, the tools there don't resemble any part of Cleavor's stone body. Interestingly, the absence of such a reference is notable, since it would seem like a fitting inclusion. However, the ability to catch Scyther underground might hint at a connection to Cleavor and the minerals found there. I also rewatched all the Legends, Arceus trailers, looking for connections between the items shown and the in-game elements. Some of the items shown do bear a resemblance to things like star fragments from other games, but nothing concrete links them directly. It's strange there isn't a more obvious reference in the Orberg Museum, which would seem like an ideal location for such an Easter egg. This did remind me, however, of how the Spear Pillar area has been updated. The image of the gateway to Spear Pillar is now much clearer than in the DS version. It now closely resembles the Azure Flute, which, in the Legends, Arceus era, looks more like the image in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. suggesting that the in-game carving reflects the design from that time rather than the original games. These are just the first 10 Easter eggs and secrets I've noticed. There are more, but those tie into theories or future content, so I'll cover them in upcoming videos. There's no strict definition to what I consider trivia, Easter eggs, or secret hits, just a list of 20 interesting things that I hope most people haven't picked up on. Starting with number 1, in the original Ruby and Sapphire, a Devon Corporation employee talks about developing a machine to view Pokémon dreams. This concept became real 2 generations later with the Dream World and Dream Radar in black and white. When Omega, Ruby, and Alpha Sapphire were released, the dialogue changed. The same character mentions a rival in another region also working on dream technology, likely referencing Professor Burnett from Dream Radar or Dr. Fennel, the main dream researcher in those games. Number 2 involves something rare for Game Freak acknowledging fan material. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, there's a house in Dewford Town with a picture on the wall. When zoomed in, it's clear that the image is of the full Pokémon world, or Pokearth. This version of Pokearth wasn't randomly created, it matches the one found on a fan website. There's even a backstory about the map being discussed with its creator before the games came out. The map theory, placing everything based on in-game evidence, is still a project I plan to revisit and expand on in future videos. I thought my version was more accurate and asked if it could be uploaded to C.net instead, but the answer was no, and now I get it. That map actually appears in a real Pokémon game, which is a cool way for Game Freak to acknowledge the fans' efforts. Here's something interesting. I only learned recently. In Lily Cove City, there's a house decorated with Hawaiian-style artwork and a giant palm tree. Given that Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire came before Sunday and Moon, it seems likely that this was subtle foreshadowing for the Alolan Executor. Another detail I've mentioned before, in Phoebe's Elite Four room, for a few frames during the dialogue, you can spot what seem to be ghostly girls. Based on the angles, it looks like there are 2 of them, which might connect to Phoebe's 2 Burnetts. The Pokédex describes Burnett as abandoned dolls that haunt children, so this could be a spooky reference. At the end of Omega, Ruby, and Alpha Sapphire, the elderly woman on top of Mount Pyre disappears. It's implied, possibly confirmed, in the manga that she and her husband are Phoebe's grandparents. Later, Phoebe can be found at Mount Pyre, paying respects to her grandmother, suggesting she passed away between the Elite Four battle and the postgame. One cool feature in these remakes is the ability to bring Pokémon all the way from the original Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald games. By using PAL Park, the transfer system in black and white, and then Poke Transporter to Pokémon Bank, you could move them into Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Doing this rewards you with a special hidden base item, a certificate of unwavering friendship. In the Delta episode, Stephen Stone talks about a trainer with a black Charizard, clearly a reference to Elaine from the Mega Evolution specials. This connects the games to the animated series a bit. While it doesn't mean Ash exists in the game's world, it does suggest a version of Elan does. It would be fun to battle him in the game someday. Here's a fun fact about Route 108. That's where you find Spiritomb in the new Seymourville. Its Pokédex entry says it's made of 108 spirits, which is why it's located on Route 108. Nice attention to detail. Lastly, there was a demo for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I got it the day it launched. The main reward from completing it differed by region. You'd get a Mega Glalie in Europe and the West, or a Mega Steelix in Japan, which could be transferred to the main games. If you keep playing the demo continuously for several days, you can unlock a hidden event where you receive a secret item, either a nugget or a big nugget, which can be transferred to your main game to give you a bit of extra money at the start. At number 10, we're halfway through. The Mirage Islands in Omega, Ruby, and Alpha Sapphire are scattered across the region and let you catch unique Pokémon. These islands are a nod to the original Mirage Island from Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. That original island would only appear depending on your trainer ID and secret ID. The odds of encountering Mirage Island were actually lower than finding a shiny Pokémon. The only things you could get there were level 50 Wynaut and a rare berry. The mystery surrounding Mirage Island made it special, and that concept was brought back in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire through the Mirage Spots mechanic. At number 11, in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, the Southern Island is treated as a Mirage Spot and is key to the story since you catch Latios there. This was a unique approach. The soaring mechanic was a fun addition, but that's beside the point. You can revisit the Southern Island using the Eon ticket, which is received through Street Pass. This started when the developers held an event where winners stayed at a hotel, visited a game store in Stratford, London, got the Eon ticket via Street Pass, and helped distribute it to other stores. The original Eon ticket in Ruby and Sapphire was a physical card included in a magazine and is now rare and expensive. When used with the e-reader on a Game Boy Advance, it allowed access to the Southern Island and the capture of Latios, along with the Soul Dew, a powerful item for them. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire's Delta episode, there's a major spoiler. You battle Deoxys on a comet shaped like a triangle. This references an older event from Fire Red, Leaf Green, and possibly Emerald, where players received a special ticket to visit Birth Island. There, you had to follow a triangular object in a specific way to trigger the Deoxys battle. At number 13, the battle frontier is brought up. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, there's an island for battling and earning battle points, but many hope for the full battle frontier from Emerald. Instead, there's a statue of the battle tower with a sign saying it's under construction. This was disappointing, and the reason given was that the developers didn't think enough players would use the battle frontier and believed it wouldn't be worth including. It's difficult for average players, but that's the whole point of the battle frontier, to present a challenge beyond the champion. Regardless, it definitely should have been included. Number 14. Looker appears in Pokémon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. While it may not be a direct reference, he's a member of the International Police and ends up washed ashore after a shipwreck. At the time, there was a theory that Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire take place during the same time frame as Leaf Green and Fire Red. In those games, someone on the SS, Anne, is said to be part of the International Police undercover. Some believe that character was Looker, and that the SS Anne sank, explaining his appearance on the shore. Whether the theory holds up or not is uncertain, but it's an interesting idea. Number 15. In Pokémon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, which was later fixed in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, it's possible to encounter a shiny Pokémon before you have the ability to catch it. In the opening scenes, you could see a shiny Poochyena in Ruby and Sapphire, or a shiny Zigzagoon in Emerald, while he could also catch a shiny Ralts. However, even if he does, it won't remain shiny in the next battle, frustrating for those who experienced it. Number 16. This isn't really an Easter egg, just something strange in the games. Regigigas, the leader of the Regis, should logically have a significant presence in Hoenn, where the Regis were introduced, and it does appear in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, but in an odd way. After catching Regirock, Regis, and Registeel, like in the original games, you have to return to Regis's cave with Regisis in your party, give it a specific nickname, and have it hold an item like a Castelia cone or never melt ice during the daytime. Then you can battle Regigigas. Very unusual requirements. Number 17. Gastrodon was originally planned for Ruby and Sapphire as a Generation 3 Pokémon, as was Shellos. There are back sprites and possibly audio files for it. If any audio existed, it would play at that point, but maybe not. It might have clashed with Swampert's role on teams, but considering there are other ground water types like Quagsire, who knows? Number 18. A character in the game based in Sutopolis represents the daughter of Junichi Masuda. She gives you berries, and while it's not actually his daughter, it's a tribute. Game Freak employees are also present in the in-game offices of Game Freak, which are meant to represent the real-world development team. Number 19. The Game Corner was removed from the new Mobile City due to changing standards around gambling representation in games. As a result, the Game Corner from Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald couldn't be included in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Number 20. Completing the Pokédex in the era of Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Leaf Green, and Fire Red required access to multiple titles including Pokémon Colosseum, Gale of Darkness, and Pokémon Channel. Playing Colosseum was often the easiest way to get the Johto starters. If you completed the full Pokédex in Pokémon Emerald, Professor Birch would reward you with one of the Johto starters, Cyndaquil, Totodile, or Chikorita. You could only choose one. Professor Birch, you have one of the rarest and most difficult Pokémon to obtain.